Damian Farrell Design Group, Damian on Design each week on the Lucy on Land Show. Our special guest today, Russ Collins, who heads up our Michigan Theater. Let's talk about art house convergence.
Yeah, I'm looking at the website here. 17 theaters in the whole country, and we're one of them. You're one of them. Why only 17? What are the criteria?
Well, so I'm not exactly
And that's not a criticism.
sure
I say this on wonder that it says that there are Sundance Institute Art House Project has since grown to a total of 17 participating theaters nationwide.
That's the Art House Project. Yes.
Okay.
So,
right. So
Sundance selected a handful of theaters to represent the best of American art house cinema, and we were one of those. Actually, we were one of the original 12 that was chosen, and then they added 5 more. Out of that art house project, out of those 17 theaters, led by the Michigan Theater, I'm proud to say, was a conference that was created in association with the Sundance Film Festival called the Art House Convergence. Right. And so every year we get together, and so the first Art House Convergence was held in 2008, and 25 people came, representing about 10 theaters. Last year, or actually this year in 2013, we had 350 people came that represented over 100 theaters, as well as industry participants, equipment manufacturers, equipment installers, distributors, all kinds of filmmakers, all kinds of folks from the independent film world came to the Art House Convergence, and it actually has become such a sensation that I was selected by the IndieWire, which is the kind of the Wall Street Journal of independent cinema, as one of their 40 most influential people in the independent film world.
So we're not surprised.
Not at all.
Not all Russ. Yeah.
So anyway, that was kind of fun. But
it's a wonderful feather in your cap.
It means that the Michigan Theater has not only a local impact in terms of restoring a historic property, programming it with live shows and cinema, but we also have a national reputation as the convener and manager of this Art House Convergence, which was generated out of this initial gathering of folks that Sundance put together called the Art House Project. So we're very, very proud of that. And then we've got more news in terms of a regional project that we're working on and have been for the last couple of years.
And can you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, the Cinetopia Film Festival, which happens in June of every year, was started 2 years ago, started in 2012 as a pilot project. And it was done just in Ann Arbor at the Michigan and State and the University of Michigan campus. Last year we expanded it to the Detroit Institute of Arts with the notion that it was always going to be a regional film festival. So we will select the best films from the world's best film festivals and bring them to Southeast Michigan. And with a grant that was given by the Knight Foundation just about a week ago, we're going to be able in 2014, in June of 2014, to greatly expand the Detroit part of the Cinetopia Festival to continue to build it into a regional film festival that people from all over the world should recognize as a significant festival. Detroit has a very interesting history as a cinema center, believe it or not. And the automobile industry and the movie industry grew up exactly at the same time in the very late 19th and throughout the 20th century. And the business growth of both of those industries were almost exactly parallel in that they were created in the 1890s. In the 19-teens, the full potential of the automobile transportation industry and the communications industry as created by the motion picture was developed, and the potential of that started to be exploited in the 1920s. It had developed into a mature business, and then throughout the rest of the decades of the 20th century, technological advancement transferred those transportation and media technologies into what we know today as the modern automobile and the modern electronic communications world.
Russ, will you play off of that with the expansion of Cinetopia in Detroit in an even greater way?
To some degree, although we will, it's about celebrating the here and now of Detroit, the here and now of southeastern Michigan, the here and now of motion pictures. One of the pieces of Detroit film history is Detroit was second only to Hollywood in the amount of celluloid film that was shot in the 1940s and the 1950s. And that was because of industrial films and advertising that was done. So if you've seen Mad Men, they're set, right now they're set in the mid-1960s when the advertising world was very big. It was before videotapes, everything was shot on film. And they're spending a lot of time in Detroit trying to promote some Chevrolet.
Well, Detroit was sort of the center of fashion and culture and everything bright and beautiful back then.
To a large degree. Yeah, the first half of the 20th century, Detroit was Silicon Valley. It was the equivalent of Silicon Valley. It's where all the technology, all the business, all the marketing innovation was happening in the world to a large extent was in the Detroit area. And I think that's something we can take pride in. But we're celebrating the wonderful creative energy in Detroit that has been recognized by the Knight Foundation. They put out a request for 1,400 institutions and individuals responded to this Knight Foundation Arts Challenge. They selected about 80 people to submit subsequent grant proposals, and they selected 56 of those original 1,400 to receive grants, and the Michigan Theater was one of those.
Congratulations.
To expand Cinetopia. So we're very excited about this. The Detroit metropolitan region is one of the few metropolitan regions in the United States, or actually the world, that doesn't have some kind of significant scale film festival. There's lots of film festivals that go on, but they tend to be genre focused and not broad based and not broadly.
And this is broad based.
This is a broad based festival celebrating world independent film.
This is an interesting collaboration connection, Ann Arbor to Detroit.
Yeah.
Well, Ann Arbor, I mean, I grew up in Ann Arbor like you did, Lucy, and I always thought of Ann Arbor as in the orbit and essentially a suburb of Detroit, which is essentially what it is. Our media significantly comes out of Detroit, whether it's a newspaper, especially when we were kids. The Free Press is what everybody read in the morning. The Ann Arbor News is what people read in the afternoon, and then everybody read the Free Press on Sunday. Of course, not everybody, but almost everybody, because there was no Sunday Ann Arbor News back in the 60s and 70s. We listened to radio out of Detroit, whether you were a kid and you were listening to rock and roll, or you were an adult and you were listening to WJR.
The media in Ann Arbor always was fighting that, being an umbrella of Detroit because we were so close, unlike other communities that had radio stations or papers.
Right, and then television, you only got it out of Detroit. There are little flickers of things that happened in terms of television in Ann Arbor back in the 50s, and then essentially every decade since then. But ABC, CBS, NBC, and then public television all came out of Detroit. So we are in the orbit of Detroit. The University of Michigan. There was a very interesting documentary a couple of years ago about what the difference between Michigan and Ohio State are. And Michigan was always more advanced as an institution than Ohio State, not because of intrinsic value that we all like to think it is, but basically because the automobile industry was generating so many tax dollars that they could actually invest in higher education. And so there was a lot of state money that went to Michigan State, and the great colleges that are here, the public colleges that are here, that pushed them to the forefront. So between visionary leaders that founded these institutions and the tax-based funding that built them into the great institutions that they are, they were ahead of the curve, and consequently all of their ancillary activities like performing arts spaces and football teams and all of those kind of things were also very cutting edge and ahead of the curve.
How much bigger is Cinetopia going to be this year?
We expect it to maybe double or more than double in terms of attendance, with a lot of that happening in Detroit. We had a 70% increase in attendance this year, and depending on the sponsorship levels that we're getting, which we have a very, very good start with the Knight Foundation grant, we should be able to really do some interesting things in Detroit, attract a larger audience there, as well as a larger audience because of the more broad-based media
Let's
support.
talk some numbers quickly about that. How many facilities How many days does this run? What does this look like volume-wise?
Sure. It's going to take place June 4th through 8th, 2014.
Yeah.
It's going to be a 5-day festival. It has been 4 days to this point, so we're going to add a day. We're going to add 3 or 4 or 5 screens, additional screens in Detroit. We may add 1, but we already had 5 screens here in Ann Arbor between the Michigan, the State, University of Michigan campus, and then a rooftop theater on the Maynard Street parking structure. So we'll continue with those things in Ann Arbor. We'll expand in Detroit so that there will be an analogous number of screens. We look forward to working with the cultural center, particularly the Detroit Institute of Arts, who's our key partner. We'll also have a partner with Detroit Public Television, and we look forward to just more and more opportunities to work with Detroit institutions and do the right thing in terms of putting a festival together that both attracts the world's interest, but reflects the great dynamism that there is in southeastern Michigan, powered by Detroit.
Russ Collins talking about Cinetopia International Film Festival, featuring the best feature-length dramas, comedies, documentaries from the world's best film festivals like Sundance and Toronto and Berlin and all over.
And even some great local stuff as well.
Fantastic.
And again, putting Ann Arbor on the map, and Detroit too.
Absolutely.
And expanding in Detroit. You can go to cinetopiafestival.org for more information. Again, June 4th through the 8th, 2014. Russ Collins, Executive Director over at the Michigan Theater, and our favorite, Damian Farrell.
And may the sun just keep shining on the Michigan Theater.
Damian Farrell Design Group, he's a local architect, and it's Damian on Design each week here on the Lucy Ann Land Show, Ann Arbor's Talk Station, 1290 WLBY.